What's up, whores and boys? My name is KotyTang. Now isn't this something? After much backlash from the community and an underwhelming amount of content with not a single comment about how Animal Crossing has been developing, Nintendo came out of nowhere and released a surprise to the entirety of the Animal Crossing community. It was just a simple trailer that only revealed Brewster, but when the curtain was pulled back and just how much new content finally was being released, it made it seem as though New Horizons might actually be looking up. Although, something said at the end of the reveal struck me as very odd. That being that it's the last major free content update, which could have meant a variety of things. It was very possible that all further content would be presented in the form of paid DLC, or the updates presented will just continue to be seasonal items. I think it's important to say that Nintendo has officially confirmed that not only are there no more major free updates, but there is no more DLC coming either. The only type of content they'll be adding into the game are in the form of bug fixes now. This means that New Horizons has officially come out of early access, and this is the full game in all of its glory. Flaws, undercooked ideas, and half-assed systems will be here to stay from this point forward. This means no new shops, no upgrades to stores, and no characters will be included later on. Leave it to Nintendo, one of the dumbest, most anti-consumer companies, to create their second best-selling Switch game at 33 million copies, take a couple of looks at it, and decide to completely abandon it and give a massive middle finger to all of its new and older fans. With that being said, I'll now be talking about this game as if it is the final product, considering it's now out of early access and any further content will just be minor fixes, since no matter what we say at this point, it will never come to this game. Let's see if New Horizons 2.0 is strong enough to last for the next 5 to 6 years when the next Animal Crossing finally bears its ugly head. The Roost has become an Animal Crossing staple dating all the way back to Wild World. It's finally made its way back into New Horizons, and it does pretty much exactly what you expect, and that's get coffee from the pigeon. Though he no longer holds concerts since KK arrives every Saturday, the largest letdown of the cafe is that you can no longer work there, which was a feature introduced in New Leaf. We've only just begun and we've already encountered New Horizons' infamous half-baked additions, where they remove content and don't replace it with anything, because fuck you. Nintendo just removed the feature entirely. The way I see it, giving us Brewster the way they did is basically like giving you a birthday present, and when you open it, all that's in there is ripped up tissue paper. The return of Kapp'n is a feature I actually wanted since the first time I played the game and was honestly waiting for him to come to my island on my first run through. I mean, we had a pier, we literally made homes on an island, yet, of course, he wasn't ever going to show up. So now that Kapp'n was finally brought back, the way that he works is probably one of the more mediocre factors of the update. Where Kapp'n used to be the only way to get over to a minigame based island that had its own shop, characters, and hosted summer collectibles, Kapp'n has been reduced to an alternative to Dodo Airlines. Kapp'n provides the Mystery Island gimmick, but his unique spin is that he can sometimes take you to seasonal islands and unique islands that offer things based on the time of day. Kapp'n is such a great way to quickly get all the vegetables needed for cooking, as well as a constant supply of gyroids. And if you're lucky enough, you'll be met with an island of a different time or season and be able to catch snowflakes, sakura petals, and autumn leaves to craft any DIYs that you may have missed in the past. He's also the island that you travel to in order to unlock Brewster's Cafe. With all this stuff, there has to be a catch, right? Well, the catch is that you only get to do it once every day. Because, fuck you, that's why. Kapp'n's inclusion of the game is pretty pathetic, and it really won't be used unless you really want 100% the game. Isabelle finally has something to say. No more corny failed attempts at jokes that you've already heard after the first week of playing. Isabelle finally decided to participate in the island and let you know what events are happening and characters are visiting. But of course, there's a downside. Now, for time travelers like myself, she's already becoming annoying, spouting the same exact lines of text whenever a character comes to the island. And trust me, if it's annoying for me, everybody who doesn't time travel will be tired of it after week 3. Isabelle is destined to repeat the same lines of dialogue just like every other villager in your game. Because why give characters their own personalities when you can just give them the same strings of dialogue and say that you worked really hard on creating a bunch of throwaway dialogue that a kid in their first English class could have written? Harv's Island finally has a purpose. No more creating pointless scenery just so you can take a photo and then forget that it's a feature. Harv has an area to open up shops. Similar to New Leaf, but extremely dumbed down. Like many things in New Horizons, it's done to its bare minimum. It's nice that they've given us actual places to go for each shop, but they didn't really extend their arms past what was already in the game. No new shops or even expansions to the shops currently in the game, which would make a lot of sense considering they have an actual place that they hang out. It's just the same exact shop it would be otherwise, but now you can access it any time of the week. Once you spend 700,000 bells, that's literally it for that area, and since Nintendo has abandoned the game, they won't be editing that area anytime soon either. What you see is exactly what you're going to see for years to come. Harriet returns to the game, adding 11 new hairstyles. The hairs in Animal Crossing have always been some of the most hideously designed hairs, and these are no exception. Even with this large list of hairstyles, it's hard to believe that anybody actually finds the majority of these appealing. The wigs being the worst addition to any game that features customization, due to it taking an entire head slot because the developers were too lazy to make a separate model for hats. As if they already weren't cutting corners when it comes to character customization and everything else in this game. After 11 days, you'll have received all of the hairs, and Harriet hilariously becomes absolutely useless and is just walking around Harv's Island because she has fuck all to do now because of the fact that you can edit your character at will. Seriously, Nintendo, you couldn't let her have anything unique, like hair colors you can only get through her, or just make these new hairstyles a list of hairstyles you have to go directly to her for instead of a mirror? Her inclusion is literally pointless. And of course, with no updates means no new hairs. She is forever doomed to meander around Harv's Island, as Nintendo knows we wanted her back, so might as well half-ass it and say, there you go, we gave you what you wanted. Group stretching is one of the most important things of this new update, and as funny as that sounds, I say this not because it's good, because it's actually fucking awful. Stretching manages to capture one of the core mechanics of Animal Crossing. Though it's executed in a laughably atrocious way, it calls back to systems of Animal Crossing that kept the game interesting every day you turn the game on. And that's the day-to-day activities and minigames. As important as it was to include the roost, group stretching is just as important. It does literally nothing for you past teaching you a reaction, but it calls back to the idea that the Animal Crossing world isn't just a toy box to decorate, but a living world where characters go about their lives in an immersive, interactive way. Group stretching is a small glimmer at what Animal Crossing used to be about, and while after you do it twice you'll be bored of it and likely never touch stretching again, I think it stands as an ironic representation to Nintendo that people care about actually doing things with their villagers rather than just watching them pretend to fail at catching bugs all day. Which is why characters visiting your homes and you visiting theirs is also important. The problem with this though is that their dialogue options are literally the worst part of New Horizons, and they all repeat themselves no matter what character you're speaking to. Honestly, there's literally no point in wanting to interact with the characters, or even want to go into their homes. I think we need to talk about this. The fact that Nintendo thinks it's okay to create 397 villagers, and then instead of giving them all unique personalities, you craft only 8. 8 personalities for 397 characters. When said aloud, it really hammers in that it's one of the most asinine, stupid-ass decisions I have ever heard in my life. With these 8 personalities, they write piss-poor dialogue for them and slap them onto random characters. So now every character is a pop star, every character is a fashion queen, every character is a weightlifting maniac, or every character is a bug-loving psychopath. This is by far the worst thing about Animal Crossing, and I am not just talking about New Horizons. I'm talking about every Animal Crossing at this point. Clearly, we need to stop adding in pointless ass characters and start fine-tuning the ones in the game, so that when you do introduce a new character, they aren't just a husk wearing a different animal suit that finds itself stuck endlessly repeating the same exact phrases, conversations, and attitudes every single minute of the day. And this isn't just villagers. It's also the unique NPCs. Blathers and the majority of the unique NPCs talk to you like it's either the first time or the second time you've ever met them, no matter what. We live in a village of 10 fucking people. There is no small town that treats you like a brand new person every day. You literally see each other when you look out your damn window. This goes for every character in the game. There are no shortenings of their dialogue. There are no different ways that they say things. They explain everything in full detail to you every time, all the time, even in the same day. I do not give a shit. This is one of the top 3 worst parts of any Animal Crossing game. These characters are not characters. Even when they had little quirks about themselves that made them slightly unique, they still were the same husk, different animal. They are, and have always been, nothing more than decoration. That's why the unique characters all stay in resident services or their shops and never leave ever. They don't have lives, they are just vendors pretending to be people. The villagers might as well be bugs that you just catch and show off. Ordinances have returned to Animal Crossing, giving Isabelle a much needed purpose. But, well, it doesn't really give her a purpose. There's only 4 ordinances you can choose. Make things open an hour early, make things stay open an hour late, make villagers kinda sorta but not really take care of your island, or finally, inflate your economy so that you sell high and buy high. Which means that you'll be buying and selling for the same price, it just looks like you don't. And if you want to just sell a bunch of stuff and then switch your ordinance, it costs 20,000 bells to do that, which makes this ordinance completely worthless. And no, you don't unlock more, that's it. So yeah, I would say that Isabelle is an intercom at best. The golden star of 2.0 is the fact that you can now cook in the game. This and farming are by far the most interesting additions. There's a ton of different recipes to collect through just traveling around, catching fish, or meeting with your villagers so they can give you the recipes for DIY foods. And yeah, it's great, it's a lot of fun even. So what's the problem I have with cooking? Well, unless you want to make your islands 2 fruit and coconut meals all day, you won't be making much food at all, unless you time travel. You will basically be able to cook every 3 real-life days. And that's because of the farming system. It takes 3 real-life days for crops to grow. I think that a game like Animal Crossing would probably benefit much more from crops growing daily rather than taking damn near a full week. It'd bust the economy of the game, but who doesn't have millions of bells saved up at this point? Previously, I talked about how Animal Crossing doesn't have any of the fruits that were previously in the game. So, by adding the farming system, I'd say they replaced them with something debatably better. However, they still don't have perfect versions of crops. Unless you count when you water them enough to grow 3 at a time rather than 1 or 2. I think it's easy to debate that this is a better system, but it'd still be nice to have all the fruit back. Of course, there's many other minor things like new KK songs, reactions, storage upgrades, and every character being added back into the game through amiibo cards, but we're forgetting some things. What about what is still not in the game? And to press it even further, what has been confirmed to never be returning? Oh yeah, we're still missing quite a bit. And the requests that still haven't been met. And as confirmed by Nintendo, will never be added into the game. The new Horizons 2.0 update, when first introduced, was one of the most promising things this game has seen since its launch last year. All of that hype and excitement immediately shut down by Nintendo themselves by claiming this is it for the game. They have officially and completely abandoned the game. This is it for New Horizons. So, if you don't like it, then sell the game and be done with it, because it isn't getting any better. But there is something else we haven't talked about yet, and that's Happy Home Paradise. And I'll see you guys when we talk about that next.